Greetings, foolish mortals, and welcome back to another mystery spooky Friday. Still working on a name. My apologies for missing last week. The simple answer is that I could not get it together. Just speaking truths out here today. So today we are going to be reading a story from r/nosleep. So this is a little bit different. This isn't exactly a mystery. No sleeps are considered works of fiction. There's always that little air of, could it possibly be real? But, you know. This is from user Bife is Disciple, I believe is how you pronounce that username. I will have it up on the screen. So as the disclosure goes, I'm doing this just for entertainment purposes. This work of fiction is not my own, and full credits go to the author of this. So without further ado, let's dive into this no sleep story. So I do want to give a little disclaimer for today's video. There is some mention of some creepy stuff. There's a little bit of blood mentioned. There's a little bit of the macabre for sure. So if you are easily disturbed or if you're squeamish, then this may not be the week for you. I mean, it's not horrible or anything, but it is pretty creepy. It is pretty gross too. So just giving you a little warning there. Not sure what's going on in my family's basement, but I'm pretty sure it's illegal. My dad would never have gone into the basement that night if he knew I was watching him. "Crap, Danielle, you scared the crap out of me," he said. I knew that he didn't expect to see me because he tried not to say crap when I could hear, but he did it twice. Also, he was dragging a heavy load in a white sheet that looked like it had blood on it. It was dark in the kitchen. There was enough light coming through the open basement door to make it pretty unmistakable. "I woke up to get a glass of water," I explained. "What are you taking downstairs?" He looked down at the long, heavy object that was wrapped up in the sheet. It's a new carpet." "For the basement?" "Yes." "We don't have carpet in the basement." "Which is why we need this one." "Go to bed, Danielle, it's a school night." I was pretty sure he was lying about the carpet, like almost completely certain. Parents think that they can get away with lying to their kids all the time because they forget that growing means losing what we used to believe, and we're growing all the time. I tried very hard to listen to what was happening in the basement, but my bedroom is on the second floor and I couldn't hear a sound, which is much worse than knowing everything. I got home from school at 3:45 every day, and Dad never came back from work until after 6. I didn't want to check the basement alone, but we all do things that we don't want to do. Sometimes it feels like we don't have a choice, even when we're the ones acting. The basement is unpleasant. It's dark, even when I pull the chain hanging from the ceiling to turn on the single bulb. You have to walk down the stairs with only the light from the kitchen. It's cold and smells like bleach. I don't know why we have basements, which hold the stuff we never use. Dad should have just thrown away the workbenches, barrels, and tools that he told me not to ask about. I'm not sure what I was looking for, but I hoped I wouldn't find it. The concrete floor was clean, very clean, but the stains on the workbench had always been there. The basement still had no carpet. I bent down to search the floor. The coldness rose up from the ground and made me shiver as I got on my hands and knees. But the floor was spotless. If I was going to find anything, it had to be around hidden corners, and it had to be now. Dad wouldn't be happy if he knew I was in the basement, so I could only do this once. I pulled back a dirty sheet that was draped over a bench and reached my hand into the darkness. I felt something. Dragging my hand out, I kept the objects covered, not wanting to know. Then I heard a car pulling into the driveway. Mom was home. Time was up. So I scooped the objects and held them close. They were teeth. Grown-up teeth, because they had some silver parts like Daddy has. I felt ashamed when I looked at them. They reminded me of how far from normal I really was. I slid the teeth back behind the sheet and ran into the kitchen before Mom got inside. Not knowing is worse than anything. Dad sat on my bed and kissed my forehead when I went to sleep, just like always. I was relaxed and safe when I felt his weight on the side of my mattress. But we all want our innocence broken. Otherwise, we'd keep it forever. That's why I was hiding behind the sheet in the basement after he put me to sleep. I didn't want to be alone in the dark, but I didn't like knowing the teeth were on the ground next to me. But Daddy didn't check that corner, so it was the safest place to hide. Staying quiet in a dark place is the best way to hear voices. Mom says that isn't ghosts, that it's just our imagination going wild when all distractions are gone. But that just proves she doesn't know what ghosts really are. My jeans and sweater didn't keep me warm. I couldn't stop shivering. I wanted to leave. But then the basement door opened and I really wanted to leave, but it was too late. Our desire is always strongest in the moment we realize something familiar has become out of reach. Step, thunk. Step, thunk. Step, thunk. Dad was dragging something heavy down the stairs. Click. I blinked as the light bulb shined dimly through the sheet. I assumed Daddy's eyes wouldn't be immediately adjusted, so I peeked into the room. He was kneeling over another sheet-wrapped bundle on the ground. This one was also bloody. He was sweaty and nervous as he unwrapped it. I had never seen a dead body before, but I knew right away that she wasn't alive. Her skin was the pale color of uncooked mushrooms. Her arms flopped like spaghetti instead of something alive. I wanted to look away so badly. I didn't look away. Daddy pulled out the saw that spins around in a circle, and I knew things were about to get gross. I was so disappointed in him. And then her arm moved. The woman's face was still dead, but I watched her fingers squirm like worms coming up from the ground after rain. Daddy didn't notice right away. Things might have been different if he had. He was examining the saw when her arm lifted high. It grabbed his throat like a snake that I had watched once eating a mouse. He dropped the saw and squeezed her hand until his fingers turned white, but it didn't do any good. I felt like my entire body was dried cement. I couldn't help him. I couldn't turn away. I wanted to puke. Her eyes came alive as Dad slapped her arm, his lips becoming blue while his tongue bulged. The blood vessels in his eyes changed to pink, then splotchy, then the white turned red. He got weaker as the punches started turning into little slaps. Then he stopped moving. I squeaked. The woman dropped my dad to the floor. He landed like spaghetti. Then she sat up, pulled the sheet off her body, and turned around. She was completely naked, and every part of her skin was pale. I wondered if ghosts are white because dead people sometimes have no blood in them. Our brains form weird thoughts during the most shocking moments. She stood, walked over to my hiding place, and knelt down. I scooted back, convincing myself that I would be safe as long as I moved to the darkest corner. That works when we're hiding under the covers in our beds, so I decided it would do just well here. It didn't work. She pulled back the sheet and stared at me, and I stared right back. It may have been my very first time seeing a dead person, but I understood enough to know that she was still dead no matter how much she was walking around. I stared back at eyes that couldn't blink. I breathed. She didn't. I wanted to run away, but I was cornered. I shook. "You feel alone," she said, but her voice was all wrong. "You are not alone. You never are." Then the woman reached out a rubbery hand and cupped my face. Her fingers were like ice, but I was afraid to fight back. It felt like my teeth were vomiting, but I couldn't stop them as my fangs cut through my gums and exposed themselves to the world. I hated it. I was ashamed because they reminded me how far from normal I really was. "Welcome to the night," she whispered as my tears fell. "Now," she continued, looking behind her, "there are several options for your father. Are you ready to find out who you really are?" So that was the no sleep story. So let me know what you guys think of it down below. I think, and this is something I saw in the comments, so I can't take full credit, it seems to be in this mysterious, creepy story, the dead person being talked about was not a person who was not alive, it was a vampire. So I guess they weren't alive, but they also weren't dead. You know how the vampire thing works. And I think her father was a vampire hunter. And that vampire, I guess, just strangled him. So I think when she said there's a few options for your father, she was implying we can save him by turning him into a vampire. Let's talk about that, is where I think that was heading. I don't know if there's another part to this story. If there is, I will make another video about it. but I just saw this on r/nosleep, and I actually, before I read it today, I just kind of skimmed it because I wanted to kind of react along with you guys. So this was the first time I fully read it besides just like speed reading it. So I definitely thought it was really spooky and creepy, but that's why I wanted to read it for this Friday spooky video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next Friday. Bye!